Two Ronnies, contenders for the funniest comedy duo on British TV, and they have stood competition from the likes of Morecambe and Wise. But unlike Morecambe and Wise, Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie Barker had a living as actors long before they became a duo, and they found time to do other acting roles during their tenure between 1971 and 1988. Both Ronnies had been acting on stage and screen since the 1950s, but they first came together in the Frost Report, where their best known sketch was this one they did with John Cleese in 1966.
I look down on him because I am upper class.
I look up to him because he is upper class. But I look down on him because he is lower class. I am middle class. I know my place.
But we all know that one. What we're going to look at here is the time in between that and when the Two Ronnies started, and one programme in particular set something of a template for the Two Ronnies, and how it was a great showcase for Ronnie Barker as a performer and writer. It was also where future national treasures would also appear, and there was also some great talent behind the scenes, not to mention David Frost, who brought the Two Ronnies together. But when they got their own show, Frost was pipped to the post by the BBC. Hi, I'm Stuart Kenny, and on today's Nostalgic Thingummyjigger, we're going to Hark at Barker. After the Frost Report ended on the BBC, David Frost jumped ship to Rediffusion London in 1967, going from satirist to heavyweight interviewer, grilling the likes of Enoch Powell and Oswald Mosley. But this was just a stepping stone. His next big idea was to start his own ITV region, which became London Weekend Television. While at Rediffusion, he produced two separate shows for Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie Barker. Corbett appeared in the sitcom No That's Me Over Here, produced by Frost and Marty Feldman, and created by Barry Cryer, Graham Chapman and Eric Idle. Two series were made for Rediffusion, but only one episode survives. Get used to this, there's a lot been wiped here. Ronnie Barker's series for Rediffusion was the Ronnie Barker Playhouse, which would have Barker acting in a different story each week. Again, most of these were wiped. But the second episode of the series was entitled Ah, There You Are, which had Barker as the forgetful Lord Rustless. The episode was written by Alan Owen, who'd been nominated for an Oscar for writing A Hard Day's Night, and struck a chord with Barker, who felt it could be expanded upon. Rediffusion closed down in July 1968 to be replaced by Thames Television, but most of the talent and staff behind the scenes at the old Rediffusion studios in Wembley went to work for London Weekend under David Frost. Both Ronnies would do sketches on Frost's new variety show, Frost on Sunday. This one, featuring Michael Palin, was hastily done in Rediffusion's old sports studios due to the technical staff going on strike on London Weekend's opening night a few days before.
I'm sorry to bother you, but doesn't Mr. Ferguson live here?
No, he doesn't. Anyway, he's out.
Well, if you see him, could you tell him his son's looking for him?
You're my son?
You're Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah. Sorry about the fib. I thought you were Jehovah's Witness.
Can I come in, sir?
Yes, I suppose you better, yes.
Thank you. Jolly nice place you've got here, sir.
Yes, not bad, is it? We converted it out of an old sports studio, you know.
But, onwards and upwards, Frost had poached producer Humphrey Barclay from Rediffusion, where he'd found massive success producing Do Not Adjust Your Set. Barclay would be working under London Weekend's head of entertainment, Frank Muir. The first two shows Barclay produced, We Have Ways of Making You Laugh and A Complete and Utter History of Britain, were quickly forgotten. Hardly any of them exist in the archives either. But in 1969, Barker was given Ronnie Barker's new series to produce, which turned out to be a spin-off of the Ah There You Are episode of the Ronnie Barker Playhouse, now entitled Hark Barker. Hark Barker was set in Crome Hall, owned by Lord Rustless. Each episode was based around a certain theme, and it had Rustless giving us a lecture on these themes, whether it's about women, holding a banquet, or the solar system. He would be aided by Secretary Bate, played by Josephine Tewson, Butler Badger, played by Frank Gatliff, the cook, played by Mary Baxter, and the 100-year-old gardener Divers, played by an unrecognisable David Jason, who had worked with Barker on Do Not Adjust Your Set. Each episode would start with Barker as London Weekend continuity announcer, doing his spokesman or reading a news shtick, which would become commonplace a few years later on the Two Ronnies.
Good evening. Here are some details of programme changes. Due to the fact that the special edition of Tomorrow's World was shown yesterday, last night's edition of Tonight will now go out tomorrow. Replacing this week, which will be shown later tonight, instead of all our yesterdays, which has been postponed for next week. However, tonight, or in the case of people seeing this tomorrow, yesterday, you are invited once again to call on Lord Rustless, who will be talking to you about military history. So off you go. Unless you'd like to stay here with me and we could touch on a thing or two. What do you think?
The lectures would be interspersed with sketches where Barker and others would point out examples of whatever Rustless was teaching us. Some of them would be silent, as Barker had a love for silent comedy. In the first series at least, they'd begin with cartoon caricatures drawn by Terry Gilliam, who was coming into his own as an animator on Do Not Adjust Your Set. The sketches were written by Barker under his Gerald Wiley pseudonym, and also by future goodies Graham Garden and Bill Oddie, and also Eric Idle. The main bits in Crome Hall were written by renowned playwright Alan Ayckbourn under the pseudonym of Peter Coldfield. The episodes have a gentle sense of humour about them. The sketches in Crome Hall all have some interconnecting plot, usually regarding some misunderstanding Lord Rustless has made, and how it gets resolved or unresolved by the end. The sketches vary from the aforementioned silent bits, or the usual two men interacting with one another, or spoofs of TV shows, or even doing something supposedly ordinary, but making this a bit out of the ordinary, a bit like how Monty Python would start doing it later on in 1969.
Mr. and Mrs. Butler.
There were guest appearances. Michael Palin turned up with Denise Coffey from Do Not Adjust Your Set, the second series for which was being done by Thames. Yeah, apologies for the yellow face, this was commonplace back then. Even Ronnie Corbett turned up. He and Barker were still doing sketches for Frost on Sunday. Here they are with Vincent Price.
Oh, so do I. I haven't had it off for 100 years.
You poor thing. I still love your cloak.
Yes, it was made for me by the wife of a late friend of mine, Joan Collier. Joan Collier, the widow to watch.
I remember Fred Collier's wife. I once pushed him off the tower to see if he would bounce.
And did he?
No, but he dug a lovely well.
Poor cold Fred.
You know that makes sense.
And Corbett was doing another series of No That's Me Over Here for London Weekend, now in colour. Hark Barker did well enough to get a second series in 1970, also in colour. And it added a new character, mute maid Effie, played by Maura Foote.
I wonder if you've got a couple of pointers, have you? What? Oh, yes, I see, yes. But how do you keep them the round shape, though? Oh, I've never thought of rolling them in flour. That's a damn good.
There are more sketches, and this one will be remade on the Two Ronnies. Let's see if you can spot the
This
difference.
week, we shall be showing you how to build a garden shed. For this, you will need wood, nails, a hammer, not too large, but large enough to handle easily. Something a little under 3 pounds is ideal. For this, you will need wood, nails, a hammer, not too large, but large enough to handle easily. Something a little under 3 pounds is ideal. And now it's time for the window. Unless, of course, we decide to fit the door first. The window is usually fitted first, but on the other hand, the door is easier. It's really a matter for you to decide yourself. Let's say we fit the door first. For the window, unless, of course, we decide to fix the door first. The window is usually fitted first, but on the other hand, the door is easier. It's really a matter for you to decide for yourself. Let's say we fit the door first. Now, we move on to the roof. It should be felt all over. And angled sharply to discourage birds from settling on it. Now we move on to the roof, which should be felt all over. And angled sharply to discourage birds from settling on it.
Barker's popularity continued to grow, and he got another series on London Weekend, 6 Dates with Barker. This was at the Ronnie Barker Playhouse, where it would be a different story each week, one of which was The Phantom Raspberry Blower of Old London Town, written by Spike Milligan. Sound familiar? Another was The Odd Job, which was later made as a film starring Graham Chapman and David Jason in 1978. And then there was The Removals Person, which Barker later revisited in 1988 as Clarence, his final sitcom before he retired. You'd think with all this success, London Weekend would be begging Barker for more. Sadly, London Weekend's programme controller Stella Richmond had a falling out with David Frost and severed ties with him. This also meant Barker and Corbett went, as they were technically under contract to Frost rather than London Weekend. But both Ronnies appeared at the 1971 BAFTA Awards, where they were seen by BBC's head of light entertainment Bill Cotton and BBC One controller Paul Fox. They snapped them up, and the rest is history. But that wasn't the end of Lord Rustless, who would appear one last time with His Lordship Entertains, done in 1972 for BBC Two, reuniting the cast at Crome Hall, now at a hotel. It's a bit like a prototype Fawlty Towers, and it was a more traditional sitcom with no cutaway sketches. Barker wrote all the episodes. Sadly, only one survives. Hark at Barker is a very influential series. It had good talent on camera and behind the scenes. The sketches covered all kinds of humour, ranging from gentle, to clever, to surreal, to the cheeky, saucy humour Barker just couldn't resist. It was a great showcase for him as a performer, as he could usually play anywhere up to 8 characters in one episode. Complemented by his supporting cast, including Josephine Tewson, who would go on to appear in Keeping Up Appearances and Last of the Summer Wine, and David Jason, who, well, we all know how his career spanned out.
Thank you very much. And now for some late traffic news.
But it has some of the tone and style of comedy that the Two Ronnies would master, and it's an entertaining cavalcade, mixing traditional sitcom with random sketches. A bit like how the young ones would do it over a decade later. But while that was alternative comedy, this is good old-fashioned British humour, intelligent, surreal and naughty.
Right, OK, Badger. Now then, on the count of 3, 4...
All of the episodes of Hark at Barker are on DVD, which, unlike a lot of other shows mentioned in this episode, is lucky to have survived us all. But it did lead to one of the best loved and funniest TV shows on British television.
I've seen Beatles go like that, you know.
Good night from me, and it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Thank you ever so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see more videos I've made, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter if you want to drop by and say hello. I also have a Patreon if you want to donate or see me do specific subjects. See you again soon.
Let's see.